Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Underwater Photography Show. I am Matthew Sullivan,
And I'm Alex Mustard.
and we're in the heart of competition season here with regards to photo competitions, photo contests, all that good stuff. And a question that I have actually been getting a lot is whether or not all of the judges in a given competition see all the images, how images progress through competitions, and what people can do about having more competition success. And this is not something that I'm intimately familiar with, but I know
You're going to turn it on to me, aren't you?
you
I see.
are.
I,
So
I, I saw what was coming there.
yeah, I'm going to let Alex take it away.
Yeah. So I think the first thing I would say is that I've never, I've been involved in various capacities with most of the major contests that are around, and plenty that no longer exist, and that sort of thing. And I would say that all those competitions are motivated by picking what they feel are the best pictures for them. No one is trying to favor a certain, photographer or nationality of entrant or anything like that. The contests all realize that the better they're winning pictures, the better their standing as a competition will be. So, I think the first thing I'd say is, whatever you feel of the judging of any competition, those competitions are trying to do as good a job as they can. I think one of the points you raised in the introduction is one that really grates with me, and that is the fact that it is very widespread. I would say it's almost the norm, and actually the contests that don't do this are somewhat stand apart. And that is that in the vast majority of underwater photography competitions, the main judges that you see named and the competition is promoted about do not see most of the pictures. And it is very typical you're judging a competition as a judge, and the competition maybe gets 200 400 entries in their, say, wide angle category, and you will typically be sent, here are the 20 best pictures, pick your top three, please. And you'll get them on an email, you'll look through them, you'll pick your top three, you'll reply back, and that can in some competitions be the end of your involvement in the judging. Which I find is quite remarkable that such things exist, especially in competitions where the judges are asked, are used throughout the promotion. It's like one of the first things you see about any competition is these are our judges. You should enter because these are our judges, and this is very common in competitions all around. Whether it's at a dive show and they have the judges up on stage, and they obviously don't show them all the pictures that are entered, or in other competitions as well in between time. And I think the reason for this is in a lot of the cases, the contests don't pay the judges anything. They take lots of money from the entrants, but they don't pay the judges. And therefore they feel, well, we can't really ask these judges who we're not paying to look through, 400 images in that category and 200 in that category and 50 in this category. We'll make their job easier for them and get rid of the pictures we don't think are in the runners. And, I think if the contests were open about that, I wouldn't have any issue about it, but they never are. And I think actually they should solve the problem by paying the judges. And I think the better competitions do pay their judges. The problem is I've been with competitions in the past where I've said, look, I want to, see more of the images than you're giving me, but I also think you should be paying me for my time. In the same way, you're using my name to generate your income. You're asking for my time to do the important work in the competition. You should be paying me, and you should be paying the other photographers. And what the competitions do is, sadly, they walk away and find another photographer who'll do it for free. And those photographers, the thing that I find a real irony, is if you asked any of those photographers, oh, can we use your picture for free? They'd be like, no, you shouldn't. And all those people out there giving pictures away for free, you're doing it wrong. But when they go to the next level, which is, you're a successful published photographer, the next level is being invited to be a photography judge. They're like, oh, yes, I'll do that for free, and it's, so I find that quite ironic. And then I think the other aspect that frustrates me is that you can have been a judge on a competition and you can go, arrive at a dive show, to see a talk by this photographer and say, oh, you recently judged the XYZ underwater photography competition and my picture was entered and it didn't win, but I think my picture's really good. Have a look at it. What did you think when you were judging it? And the judge can turn around to you and go, well, I think that picture's amazing, But I honestly didn't see it in the judging because, we were only shown 20 pictures from that category and whoever sorted them didn't sort them. And I think all of that is wrong. I think we as a community should stand up to this and not accept it from the competitions. If I was an entrant to a competition, I would be emailing them saying, how come I paid, $10 an image and, your competition that was promoted all around these judges, they didn't see my picture. That seems a real, seems like you're not even fulfilling the contract. And I think that's really wrong. And I think, yes, it would be unfair for free to ask photographers, the judges, to look at, 1,000 images without giving them some compensation for it. But if you're charging money for the competition, surely there's some money there to compensate the judges for their time. And then they'll actually concentrate and then they'll do a good job. And I'm sorry to rant about it, but that particular point has been a bugbear of mine for years. And every time I try to stand up to it in the various, the competitions that I judged last year, I was paid for all of them. Or certainly all the major ones. And I think that's the right way. Now, none of them pay you, a daily rate or anything like that. But I think when you get a nice, amount of money that you can go out and have a nice meal or whatever it is, with the wife or then you're like, yeah, that's a fair deal. They, bought me a nice dinner that we got to go out and enjoy and, we did the judging. Or, it can be slightly more than that depending on the contest. And I think that should be something that all the people who are at the level of judges should be holding firm on. But of course, everyone wants the ego trip of being asked to be a judge in the same way that those same people criticize others for wanting the ego trip of getting a picture published for free. And I think that, yeah, if we stood up as judges, then the competitions, I think, would work better. But that's from a judging perspective. From an entrant perspective, I think it's very frustrating that you choose to enter a particular competition because it's being judged by photographers you really respect, and that those photographers don't see your work. I think that's that's really failing to fulfill the implied contract of the promotion. And I think so I think that really should be tried to be wheeled out of underwater photography. And it also makes me frustrated when you see the results, because the photographers that win, they obviously, I love this competition because they made me a winner. And, thank you to all the judges. And, isn't it great that I won? I think some of those people, if they actually saw how little effort and how little input from the actual judges can go into some of these competitions. Now, they all vary. And, as everyone watching this knows, I run a competition and called the Underwater Photographer of the Year. And in that competition, we put all the judges in one room. We put all the images in that room. And those judges aren't allowed to leave that room, or that house at least, until they've made all the decisions in the whole contest from start to finish. And I think that's the right way to do it. And I think you can do it that way in competitions if you pay for the judges' time. And that's what we've done since the very first year of UPY. We've always paid the judges because I think it's the right way to go about it. You then get the judges properly engaged because they feel like their time is being valued. And you get, I think, much better judging. And I think it's what allowed UPY to so quickly rise from being a new competition to being the one everyone wants to be part of, is because we got that right. And it allows us to do our results system because we made every decision, so therefore we can publish the results.
Yeah.
Whereas the contest that just goes, we'll have these as the finalist and that's it. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to stop ranting on that. Ask me another question.
No, well, so I was going to say the first time I kind of heard about this was from a very, very big competition that one person sees all of the images for a given category. And there's no discussion, no nothing. It's just completely up to that person. And they can discard whatever they like. They can pass through whatever they like. So then you're really relying on one person's, personal preferences and taste, no matter how subjective they set out to be, or objective they set out to be. I'm sorry. There's always going to be some subjectivity in that, and there's no debate there. There's no conversation there. And it's just kind of an odd thing to me. But it's one of those reasons why I think that as useful as a lot of competitions are for, glory or raising your profile as a photographer, that they are still very subjective. And you have to take that into consideration and not get too bummed out about it. And this is something I've been through a lot over the years. to not let it be overly discouraging because, again, you're just relying on a few people's, or in some cases, one person's taste as to how well your image does at a given competition.
Absolutely, and the logical extension of that as well is that when you are the big winner, don't get so carried away that your picture is the greatest ever because it was the subjective choice on the day. Now, I think that the competitions can improve that subjectivity by having a mechanism in place in the judging that means that that you give time for the process to work, and that
Yeah.
I don't want to use UPY as the only example on this, but what we do in UPY is we have multiple rounds where we take the bottom 20% out of a category or whatever it is. And I think, if we swap the judges, I think most underwater photographers would generally agree what the bottom 20 is each time in that. You have a little bit of variation. Maybe, one picture would go around longer, one would go around less. But I think you get a lot of agreement between photographers in that. And then what we do is once we get to kind of the halfway stage, we stop discarding the bottom and we start lifting the top. So then it's all about, okay, what are the pictures that really one of us really loves, or two of us or three of us really love? We'll pull those up. And I think that process actually works really, really well. It means we see the pictures multiple times. And I think that because we see the pictures lots of times, we tend to choose pictures that also continue to impress on repeat viewings. And I think by concentrating, you can't look as a person at 1,000 images and go, yeah, those are my top 3.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that even with 20 images. So you
Yeah.
have to go through a culling process. But then I think if you only discard what everyone thinks are the worst, you can end up with pictures as winners that everyone's kind of okay with, but no one really loves. And I think it's really important to have, that something people really love. And then the final ingredient in a good judging process is having time and the ability for judges to discuss. Because many of the great pictures that I've selected in competitions as winners have been pictures maybe on the first pass you were like, I kind of like it, but maybe I don't get it. And then another judge will say to you, I love this picture because of this and that and the other. And you suddenly see something about it you didn't see, and their argument really wins you around. Or you're talking total rubbish. This picture's junk, go and get some new glasses or whatever it is, but I think it's important to have that discussion phase. You shouldn't judge a competition purely on scoring. You can't just score every picture out of 100 and that's your results. You have to have a discussion phase because you have to be able to talk people around with your passion for an image, your arguments over an image. And I think that yields great results. All that said, I would say that the solution for this is for contests to be more open about how they judge, and for entrants to put pressure on them. You're funding these competitions. You have much more power than you think. But of course, entrants are worried if they say boo to the competition organizer, they're out. So no one ever does. But I think entrants should hold competitions to account, ask them how they're running things, and then vote with your feet. If the competitions are open and say, this is how we do it, if you like that, come with us. If you don't like that approach, don't come with us.
Yeah.
And I think that way people would, but I think, the whole hiding away and saying these are the named judges, aren't they great photographers? And then they see a very small percentage of the pictures, is for me, that kind of breach of contract really based on the advertising. And if I was an entrant to these competitions, I would make a lot more fuss. I think the fact that I run a rival competition to some of the ones that do that means that I don't tend to be, I certainly am not in a position to go after them individually by naming them. So, but it does. I do find it frustrating.
Well, that was much more well said than I would have done it. So hopefully, anybody who's asked me about this, I will just redirect them now to this video.
Watch it every year when you don't get the winners.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, hopefully that gave you guys some insight. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.